Don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Don't record yet. I'm just ready. What's so funny?
Oh no.
I told you not to record yet. I gotta get ready. I wasn't sure if I should go with the big ones or the small. I'm gonna try the big ones. Okay, now I'm ready to record. You ready? God's favorite year of Harley-Davidson. I have irrefutable evidence. Okay? First of all, how many books are in the Bible? 66. That got me thinking. At 66, Harley-Davidson happens to be my favorite year. And that reminded me of my childhood Bible that I love. My mom gave it to me. It's awesome. It has pictures, awesome pictures. You know, here's I don't want this on camera. I'll just read. Dad and Mom, may the words written herein become your own lifestyle and blossom into life everlasting with love. December 25th, 1977. I was 3. Wow. I guess I gave away my age. All right, but my cool childhood Bible is it has some pictures in it. Let me show you a couple pictures that are pretty cool. Let's see, here's Jonah and the great fish, right? Daniel in the lion's den. And how about another one? Let's see. Oh, the Christmas story. The shepherds find Jesus. Awesome. But there's one picture in here that I didn't understand. I remembered it, but I connected the dots as an adult. But when I was a kid, I didn't get it, what it was all about. So we know there's 66 books in the good book that correlates to the year 1966, of course. But look at this page in the book. There's a page of, you know, some other stuff. It's Jesus holding a generator shovel head. Irrefutable evidence. Irrefutable evidence. 1966, God's favorite year of Harley-Davidson. Yeah, there it is. There it is. This is my 1966 Harley FLH. It's the first year of the generator shovel head. Okay, now let's go back to 1966. 1966, Lyndon B. Johnson was the president of the U.S. We were in the middle of the Vietnam War. And let's see, the #1 song on the radio was by the Mamas and the Papas called California Dreamin', which is one of my favorite songs to karaoke. All the leaves are brown and the sky is gray. I went for a walk on a winter's day. 66 Harley. FLH. Okay, so in 1966, they introduced the Power Pack heads. Power Pack heads, okay? The year prior was the Panhead. And just keep focused on that for now. So this is a generator shovel head. Now it is not to be confused with a cone shovel head. A generator shovel head, the reason they call it that is because there's a generator back here, okay? And because it uses that big ass generator, it needs to be in this shape. Some people refer to these as slab side shovel heads. I like Genie shovel head. It's a Genie. Oh, look at, I can see myself in the reflection there. But this is an all original, original paint. Now I say all original. Listen, it's been maintained. It's been ridden, used. Parts that break get replaced. But aside from kind of those consumable items, it is almost all original, okay? Because if it's been ridden, it's not all original at some point in time. If it leaves the showroom floor, goes straight into a museum, that's 100% original. This is really close to. Look over here. How many did they produce? Now I went to the library, can you believe it, and checked out some books, some of which I own, and some of them I had to check out. They're expensive. But it's interesting to note that there are fewer generator shovelheads produced than there were knuckleheads. There were a total of about 40,000 knuckleheads produced. Of the generator shovelheads, they produced about 30,000. Total panheads produced, about 122,000. And total cone shovelheads produced, about 300,000, give or take, probably a little more, probably over 300,000. By the way, this document, you see, you try to look up, you know, how many shovelheads total were produced, how many cone shovelheads, generator shovelheads, panheads. Now, you try to look this up, it's tough to get the data. It's all in these books, but they have it separated out by model number, like FL, FLH, EL, FLHP, which is the police version. They'll tell you individual numbers for each one of those. I just want to know how many were produced in each year and a total number of production for the overhead valve big twin Harleys, which is what this is. I actually created a document here. I'm going to try to share it. It's on a OneDrive kind of situation. I don't know. Well, I'll see if I can get my kids to help me share it on here to others. You can tell the original paint makes kind of a wide swoop right around here. There were some years where this swoop came down in a little sharper angle. The paint is not perfect, but if it were perfect, it wouldn't be original because it's been used and maintained. Now, interestingly, this is a one-year-only situation. The petcock for the bike is on the right-hand side. Now, that made it easier because you access the bike from the right-hand side, and you can control, you know, the choke up and down, and you can turn the fuel on and off, and things right from here. But this is a one-year-only petcock, and there was a problem with it. And that problem is that you have two sets of tanks, and they're connected with a line. Well, if your fuel level was low, and you parked the bike on the kickstand leaning on the left, all the fuel would, in a few minutes, it would flow over to the left tank. And then when you put the bike upright and you try to start it, you're not going to have fuel. And that was a problem with putting the petcock on the right-hand side. And so it's 1 year only. In '67, they put the petcock on the left-hand side and thereafter. Prior to that, prior to using kind of what we know today as the petcock, on the '65 Panhead and years prior, they had a through tank shutoff valve, which was over here on the left-hand side typically, and you kind of raise and lower a plunger that allows fuel to flow. It is important to mention, here's an old Sportster tank, important to mention that on the bottom of a tank, this is the bunghole. It's called the bunghole. You put the petcock in the bunghole, okay? Remember that. Check this out. Not only do I have a September 1966 Cycle World magazine talking about a test ride of a '66 Harley, and I'm going to talk about the fairing on this later at maybe a different video, we'll see. But here is the original sales brochure. King of the Highway Electraglide, 5 more horsepower for '66. What gave it 5 more horsepower? The power pack heads, which are what we call the shovelhead. The shovelhead. Why do we call it the shovelhead? Well, I think it's a bit of a stretch, but some people think that the heads, or what is actually the rocker boxes, resemble the back end of a shovel, such as this. I don't know. A bit of a stretch, but it's an all right name, and it's stuck, and that's okay. Back to the sales brochure. Here we go. Styled for action. Okay, pretty cool. Let's see. New power pack cylinder heads. New tank panel. New cover for the buddy seat. New footboards. Notice they're not floorboards, they're footboards. New Sportster style carburetor. Oh, it has a corrosion-proof generator brush holder. Whatever. Easier to adjust distributor timer. New windshield shape. New mirror mount. New replaceable valve seat inserts. There was one part on here talking about taking a ride on the buddy seat. Okay, take a test ride. Bring along a buddy or a gal. Yeah, Electraglide has the power plant that takes you both along in an easy stride. So it had about 5 more horsepower. Now, I want to talk about something real quick, touch on this, that the bottom end of this engine is identical to the previous year, which was a Panhead, because they also had generators, okay? And it is possible to take these heads and put them on a generator, or I'm sorry, on a Panhead. If that were the case, you could potentially truly call it a Panhead. The purchase price for this in '66 was $1,610. I'll take 5. They made 7,800 about 66 FLHs. This is one of them. Talked about the gas tanks. Let's talk about the speedometer here. Now this is a tombstone speedometer, and the tombstone speedometer was from 66 through 67. So a lot of the Panhead years and one more year of generator Shovelhead year. Now, interestingly, you can back up a little bit. Anytime there's a piece of a Harley or a part that is like a double entendre, it oftentimes is more desirable. First of all, the Knucklehead, right? Now, Harley never called it the Knucklehead. It was just the overhead valve big twin of its day. Harley never called the Panhead the Panhead. Other people came up with that term, but of course, Knucklehead, you know, like it looks like a couple of knuckles, it's a double entendre, and as such, you could say, oh, I'm a knucklehead, or you're a knucklehead. And so in the psychology of what people want, it really plays into the desirability. But Harley never named them Knucklehead, Panhead, Shovelhead. Other people coined these phrases. Let's talk about this bike. Again, original paint. The fenders are the same. I think they were the same from, I think, 1960 on till 1966. This is the last year. So there's a lot of carryover from the previous year Panhead. It had, now this piece here, this headlight surround, why don't you walk around it here? The headlight surround, I'm going to teach you something for those that don't know. I didn't know this till recently, and that's why I'm mentioning it. It's called a nacelle. Nacelle. It was from, boy, maybe that was from 1960 until probably the 80s. But many years they used this type of headlight surround called a nacelle. It has a front drum brake, which is on the left side of the bike. That's important that it's on the left-hand side of the bike. And let's come around here to the other side of the bike and just show the bike. Now, why is it important that you put the drum brake on the left-hand side? Because the right-hand side is the money shot, right? Because the highlight of these bikes is the engine, and you want to see the mechanical nature of the push rods going down, the push rod tubes. And as such, you want to put certain traits that are undesirable on the opposite side of the bike. So front drum brake, they didn't introduce front disc brake until I think 1972, I think, not 100%. And the disc brakes, in my opinion, are ugly. Ugly. Okay? drum brake is where it's at, as far as I'm concerned. Now, the front drum brake is mechanical only. So the cable pulls the brake shoes apart inside the drum, makes it stop or sometimes slow down because it's not the greatest at stopping. The rear brakes, however, and you can't really catch those on video right now, are hydraulic drum operated by the foot. And those hydraulics, man, that rear drum brake is very powerful. It works great. Let's see, the Guide 62 lights, the spotlights or fog lights, whatever you want to call them, are the same from previous years of Harleys. Let's move over to this side. What we have here is some rails and stanchions. I don't know how to pronounce that exactly, but the stanchions are little pieces that support the rail, and it's just a decorative piece. It's a period accessory. I don't know if it was by Harley-Davidson or another manufacturer. And this also has the rails and stanchions on the left or on the front fender. That's a period accessory. Let's see. The 66 to 65 through 69 had this one piece primary cover, the outer primary cover, which was not the best. Why? Because in order to make any clutch adjustments, you have to remove the whole thing, which means remove the floorboard, take all the screws out, remove this heat shield, unscrew it, pull it off, so that you can adjust your in future years your clutch. In future years, they had a separate piece right here you could unscrew and get to the clutch that's right there. Back to the back has some period accessory, a license plate surround with bullet lights. You know, people added more bling. Power to them for the light. This particular bike is still has a current registration, which is awesome. Going? All right. Unique for, well, 65, 66, 67, they had these rear crash bars that were incorporated into the top stud mount for the shock. It's a great idea. It looks cool, but it's a pain in the ass because you can't just remove the rear crash bar without it, or the shock, one at a time. You had to remove them both as a unit. So it's a pain in the butt, but that's what they did that year. And in that scenario, because it's original, it's awesome. But it's a pain in the butt to manage those. This is the second year of electric start. And for that reason, they started calling it the Electraglide. Now, what did that mean? What did they have to do? What changed in 1965? Because this is the second year, 66. What changed to allow them to have electric start? Well, there's a starter, okay, and there's a drive shaft, or there's a name for it. There's a shaft that runs to a gear that helps start it. So, the transmissions are essentially the same except for, the shaft for the starter. But they also added a large 12-volt battery, and that sits under here. It's huge, it's obnoxious, and, and they also made the frames a little different. In the 64 frames before electric start, this frame made a straight line down towards the rear wheel hub, okay? And in 65, they essentially bent this frame up to accommodate the battery, which meant a different oil tank, and which also meant, space for the starter under there. Now it still has the kickstart, which is awesome, okay? Because it's nice to have both. It's a backup plan. All right, let's see. I'm going to remove, let's see, what am I missing? Oh, these are the original style exhaust pipes that I believe are referred to as shark fin exhaust. this is important, I think. Okay. I think it was 1974. There was a government mandate that throttles return to zero if you let your hand off on a motorcycle. And so prior to that, and in this year, they had something called an internal throttle. And what does that mean? That that there's no wires up here, okay? And the more wires up here you have, the uglier it is. Same thing with adding hydraulic front brake. If you add a hydraulic front brake, you have to have a big brake reservoir up top here. And that's aesthetically unpleasing, in my opinion, which means it's right. But let me show you, it's interesting. I have another pair of handlebars here. So this is an example of how the internal throttle works. Okay, now here's the end of the throttle line, and as I twist it, that throttle, and this design here, as I give it throttle, it pulls. But Harley also had one that pushed, that when you twisted it, it pushed the rod. So, you know, when I see a lot of choppers and custom bikes, a lot of times they have a couple throttle wires up there, and I don't care for the way it looks. You know, I really like an internal throttle, and I just wanted to show you how it works. Okay, there's a spiral inside there. This is called a spiral hand grip, okay? And that spiral sits inside there and makes this little pin and a little piston inside the bar, you know, go in and out. And with it goes the throttle cable. Also, the throttle stays where you put it. If you're going 50 miles an hour down the highway and you have it throttled, it's going to stay there. It doesn't really snap back to closed position. And that's awesome. It's cruise control, right? But it's not safe, right? And a lot of these things for the old bikes, you know, it's a balance between form and function. And this is no different. We lost a little bit of form in that awesome frame, the pre electric start frame that went straight down towards the rear wheel hub. But we gained electric start. So it's a balance between form and function. Let me talk about the seat. I want you to get up underneath and you can see. So this here is a buddy seat, okay? They call it a buddy seat because in theory you can ride two people on it. And the buddy seat is on that pogo. So when you're sitting on it, okay, that pogo goes up and down, okay? And they had that and through, boy, the late 70s, I think. And as an option, but this buddy seat, you see, and using that pogo seat is an awesome option, but if you're going to use a pogo seat, you can't comfortably ride what we would call two up. You can't comfortably ride with two people. You just can't do it. In order to ride comfortably with two people, you need a bigger seat. And in order to have a bigger seat, you need more support than just the pogo. And then in 1977, well, let me back up. An option, and just keep looking at the bike. An option back in the day was to use a solo seat. Here's an example of a solo seat. Okay, there is a connection up here that provides what they call a T-bar, and it's a pivot point, so that when that seat goes up and down, it provides a place for it to pivot. Okay, maybe you can see that. Okay, but the solo seat was an option that used the T-bar and the pogo, but just provided a very different look, as you can see, a different look, which, you know, police, for instance, they're never going to ride two people. I shouldn't. But the problem with the buddy seat is it's tough to truly carry a second person. If you're both really skinny, maybe it'll work, and light, maybe it'll work. But it's challenging. So then in 1977, they came out with something called the Flex the flex seat, the Comfort Flex. And here is a Comfort Flex seat. And this particular one did use the pogo, but also had this huge spring apparatus that people refer to as a bear trap. And it would mount partially to the frame and the rear fender. Now this, maybe you could ride 2 people on comfortably. But an old-fashioned buddy seat, it could be done. If all you're doing is going around town, that's fine. Long journeys, it's not going to work too well. So these are the original style saddlebags and trunk for this bike. And I want to touch on this. When I got this bike, it came with a bunch of documentation. First of all, here's a pad for the buddy seat. It came with some documentation going back as early as 1989 in Anchorage, Alaska. So I wanted to mention, you know, when you get a bike, keep the documentation with it. It's part of the history. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, but keep it together because it matters. It's almost like the bike has a soul and you care about its history. I want to show you something really cool on this bike you may have already noticed. But here in the front, right there, focus on that. Alaska Railroad motorcycle parking. Super cool. So Alaska, it has a significant history in Alaska with documentation that I'm keeping with it. When I opened up the saddlebags, there's a couple things I found. This Alaska Railroad hat with a couple cool little pins. This little Kodiak Alaska leather satchel thing, and I don't know what this is. Alaska Railroad Corporation timetable. It was in one of the saddlebags when I got it, and I don't know what it is. It's a timetable, but I think it's pretty cool, and I'm certainly gonna keep it with the bike as it should be. Oh yeah, one other thing. Well, many other things, but one that I'm going to show right now. Check this out. Now these saddlebags are proper for the year. I put these little pins on there because if the lid flies off, trying to replace it's a pain in the butt, but check this out. And these were not on it when I got it, but I put them on. Okay, it came with it. Check this out. And these latches really suck, but it's proper for the year. I'm going to keep them. And those little pins keep them in place. Check this out. The Booby Trap. Anchorage, Alaska. So I imagine some dude would roll into the parking lot of, the railroad where he's working with his buddies and show them this bumper sticker that I'm sure his old lady couldn't see. Old lady, that means wife in motorcycle lingo. Show his buddies that he was able to get away with mounting a booby trap bumper sticker. Pretty cool. So let's see. What am I missing? What am I missing? I'm sure there's more. No? Well, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove the saddlebags and maybe the buddy seat. And the tour pack. In fact, the tour pack comes off pretty easily. Has a couple pins underneath that just pull out the pin, lifts up, and removed. Awesome. All right, so I've removed the excess baggage from the bike so that we can get a close look at the paint. But there's a couple things also I wanted to mention that it came with factory turn signals, okay? Front and rear, of course, but or left and right, and front and rear, and they're operated by this little switch down here. They work, and I replaced the flasher, but right now the flasher's not working, so you gotta click, 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 click manually. It's hilarious. Anyways, I don't really do that when I'm riding it, but the mousetrap clutch also known as the clutch booster, right here, and capture this as well. Okay, super interesting and cool. What it does, there's a big spring in there, and it's stretched, and it's on the one side of center, and then it flips to the other side, so it provides a little bit. It's right now it's not pulling on the clutch at all, but if you can get it over that resistance, so it's on the other side of center, then of the spring, then it makes it really easy to hold in the clutch. So I'm not sure how much it makes it easier to pull in, but really once it is in, it can just be held in with a finger. Super easy. So if you're stopped at a stoplight, it's super easy to manage. Yeah, mousetrap, clutch booster. Yeah. And you'll notice in these early years it's devoid of excess reflectors. And how many skulls did you count on this? How many skulls were there?
0.
0? No skulls. Bonus. For those of you who love skulls, what can I say? All right, original paint. I'm going to point to why I think it's original. Oh, let me take the gas caps off too so we can look at that. Okay. I'll wipe it off a little bit. I have some of my daughter's panties I use as a rag. They make good rags. All right. I once had a guy come over, and I don't remember, I was selling him something. And I said, "Oh, do you need a rag?" And I tossed him a pair of panties. I think it was this pair. I keep them just for this. There you go, there's a rag for you. He was like, "Ah!" Anyways, they make great rags. Original paint, not perfect. You see some of the dings, you see some of the metal, some of the primer around the gas caps, and inside the tanks looks awesome. There's some little dings, some scratches, some scrapes, some awesomeness. Imperfections. Patina. It's patina. And just focus on it, David. Like, why don't you go over it? And there's a little bit of touch up. Like somebody took the black paint and touched up there the paint from some scratches. And get down low and let's look at all of it. Down low, so you can see kind of the underside too. There you go. And up here from this angle. There we go. And the other tank, the right side tank. Okay, same thing. There's a chip in the paint there. Okay. And this is a proper, I feel just ever so slight of I wouldn't even call it a ridge, the transition from black to white. And this is the proper paint scheme with the proper thickness of line. Everything points towards the original paint. That's the tank, the fender, same thing. What's that? You know what that is? That's some bird poop.
Yum, yum, yum.
Wait. I'll clean it right there. A little bit of paint touch up in a couple spots, not done by me, but prior to me. And some dings, some nicks, some scratches, some awesomeness, some original patina. Let's look at the other side of that tank. Same thing. There's a little bump in the tank, like something caught in the tire. It's a convex, pushed out, but it caused an imperfection there. Another bit of awesomeness. Of course, the oil bag. By the way, this is an oil bag. It's old school terminology for a tank.
It's not a bag.
But that's an oil bag. Original paint on the oil bag. Has the original style sticker on it. I don't know what that stands for. H, maybe FLH, as in the H, they had a higher compression. The engine was a 74 cubic inch engine, which is about 1200 cc's, and the FLH had 8-to-1 compression ratio. And there was another version called the FL, I believe. Now I'm not 100%, you know, I don't know everything. But the other version, the FL, I think had lower compression, like 7 1/4 to 1. Now this rear fender, now when I got it, it came with a frame-mounted seat, okay? It wasn't on it when I got it, the buddy seat was on it, but that frame-mounted seat bolted right here, okay? And it lets you sit lower, which is awesome because a lower center of gravity is better. But also I suspect that that seat led to a ding there and a you know, a significant blemish in the paint right back there. Now this was all brown with rust when I first got it, but I used some navel jelly straight from the source. Okay, put the navel jelly on there. And what is navel jelly? Well, it's phosphoric acid. This is what I used, OSPHO. Awesome stuff. They don't give me this for free, but maybe they will now that I mention them. But it converts the iron oxide into a different substance that then coats the steel to prevent oxygen from coming into contact. But yeah, the paint is original. You can see some of the dings. Chain guard, original paint. It looks pretty good. I mean, you know, yeah, there's some dings up there, but boy, it looks nice. The old style saddlebag mounts. Here's the T-bar I was talking about earlier. Oh, perfect. But it just, so you mount your buddy seat to that or solo seat, and it pivots right up here. Awesome for a lot of things, but it does make you sit up high. Get an overall look at the bike again. Here's the money shot side. Okay, I'm going to start up this bad boy. Now this seat is original, and it has a date stamp on the bottom that says 1966. But I was told that it was stretched because meaning the material was stretched around the foam. Maybe it was given new foam, maybe new material, because it looks pretty awesome. I don't know for certain, but it has been, you know, redone to some extent. All right, so I'm going to turn on the fuel. I'm going to turn on the reserve just in case. I don't know how much is in there. I started it yesterday. Full disclosure, you know what I mean? But it's easy to start. In fact, it leaks like virtually no oil. I've left it sitting in the same place underneath my carport, and there's like a drop, literally. So, which is awesome, especially compared to some other bikes that I own. Turn it on. Choke's fully on. I think I'm going to take this on a ride. It'll be fun. It's a great riding bike. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to try to take this for a test ride. I have this old, awesome, showy RF 200 helmet, and I realized my age because I bought it brand new. And I didn't realize it was a thing until somebody saw it and said, "Oh my God, it's our RF 200." What? It's just an old helmet. But anyways, I got this. I got my leather jacket. That was my daddy's, which is awesome. He is since deceased. But cool thing about this jacket is get the fat boy strip, so you can remove this. I can't remove it right now, maybe, but I'd look like I'd look like I was squeezed in there. All right, yeah, focus on the bike. You start it up and we'll give it a ride. We'll turn it on. Hit the starter button. Boy, the seat is high. It's all right. This pogo seat, the buddy seat, sits really high. In fact, I got my boots on, and I can kind of barely reach the kickstand. But the buddy seat, one thing is they're very adjustable. You can take the pogo out and adjust the height of it, so it could be lower. Then again, you can go with a solo seat with less padding, and then it could get lower yet. And lower is, lower center of gravity is better. We're going to start this guy up. Fuel's on. I'm going to turn the lights on. That's one more click here. Now the speedometer works. Let me rephrase. The needle fell off. It's in there, but it does work, and the mileage of 26,000 miles, I suspect, is accurate, because that's the proper speedometer, which is kind of neat. Rarely can you ascertain mileage on one of these old bikes. Now there's a little bit of spitting and sputtering at about half throttle. It's a little worse when it's a little better when it's warm, a little worse when it's cold. Maybe a little timing adjustment or carburetor adjustment, but it's totally doable. The front brakes here, the front brakes leave a lot to be desired functionality wise. You know what? Corner's decent. Corner's decent. Now the tires are old, so I got to take it easy with this thing. But it's still a lot of fun to ride. There's no infotainment system on this old girl. And you might just hear me humming. In fact, what am I going to hum but the song that was in my head most recently, the California Dreamin'? Feels good. You know, a big thing about any motorcycle, boy, arguably the biggest thing, well, it's how it makes you feel while you're riding. And with this, I feel like I'm riding something special. Well, I know I am. And here's a great, one of the best views coming up. When you can see yourself in the mirror. Everybody likes to see themselves. Well, maybe not everybody. There they are. That's how they do it. The kids. I'm gonna have them edit this, and what that means is don't be surprised if there's a random fart sound in there or something. Anyhow, I'm gonna give them somewhat of free rein to do so. Yeah, I'm gonna point out, you know, this throttle, man, it's like a it's like a built-in cruise control. Who needs electronically controlled anything? Built-in cruise control right there. I will say, sitting up high like this, with the windshield right here, now the camera might not catch it, but the windshield, the top of the windshield is like right square with my eyesight. So I'm like either looking above it or below it. Not the best thing. But it's the way it is. It's alright. You can see the speedometer working. There's a needle bouncing around down there. Going pretty fast. Relatively. Trying to catch the speedometer on the camera, so I got to point my helmet down. Catch the odometer turning over. There it is. The front brake isn't much. It'll slow you down, but boy, to stop, especially quickly, you really need that back brake. Boy, it's like it's like riding my lazy boy. Put a V-twin on my lazy boy. Let's hit the road. I mean, yeah, this seat sits up really high, but man, it is comfortable. We've got a foot of foam underneath my ass. Like a foot. beautiful day. A few clouds in the sky, that's all right. When I pull up to this stoplight, I'll demonstrate using solely the front brake. We'll see. I mean, it works a little. And I think it could be made better. Maybe resurfacing the drum. And I've done that before, but here's the front brake. It makes me do a little nosedive there. That's, you know, something. Front brake, a little bit of both. Rear brake. Look at this little glove box thing. It's a little bit crusty. You know, when I got the bike, there was an old toothbrush in here. Needless to say, I kept the toothbrush because, you know, I need to brush my teeth with something. All these cars on the road, man. Makes things dangerous for a biker. When you're not in their blind side, when they're not in their blind spot, you know, like right here, I like to ride close to the line. Otherwise they'll, you know, if you give them an inch, they'll take it balls deep. Which for me would be 2 inches. Once in a while you'll get a guy in a car that knows that you're riding something special. Gives you a thumbs up or something. But you know, for the most part, the everyday folk out there, sadly, just looks like another Harley. Once in a while you get that guy that knows, or girl, that knows it's something special. Feels good riding it. I'm going to take it up on Rocky Butte. Rocky Butte. There's some nice hairpin turns up there. I say nice, some dangerous hairpin turns. Horn works. Now this bike has mufflers on, but everybody loves this. You love to hear your own stank. Handles bumps without a problem. I mean, it's got rear suspension. Rear suspension is nice and cushy. And the pogo seat, you know, literally on a pogo, literally. Just bouncing up and down, almost like like the back of an old-fashioned tractor where you got that tractor seat hanging out way back on the spring. Yeah, you want your brakes working when you're on this road. You want everything working on this road. It's not a crotch rocket. It's a cruiser. But I would have no problem taking it on, you know, some windies at a slow speed safely. It does just fine. the only old Harley that I've had that doesn't leak like a sieve out of the transmission. They just do. There are fixes, but the fixes are sometimes involved. You know, you got to take things apart. There's a neutral light here. It needs a little adjustment. It's intermittent. Man, I feel good riding this. And this isn't something you have for necessity. I mean, back in 1966, you might have bought it as transportation. But if you own a 66 Harley today, God's favorite year Harley, you don't own it for transportation. You own it for fun, enjoyment. That it is. You know, when you get used to it, and every bike's unique, it could be plenty nimble. Just like anything though, any new bike, you get on it, you gotta get a feel for it. They're all a little different. Now the turn signals work, but like the light works. Oh, there it's blinking. Look at that. And there's the left blinking. Huh. Okay. By the way, that red light there, I'm going to turn it back off. The right finger switch. That red light there is the high beam. High beam on off. Home we are. This is the first time I've done a riding video like this. You know, with a GoPro on my situation. Woo. Think it turned out well, I hope. We'll look at the footage. And I got to talk into this microphone, you see, because this is the microphone we're going to use for audio. But it's been fun. God's favorite year, Harley-Davidson 1966 FLH Cruiser. Is this thing on? Yep. All right, how you doing, ladies and gentlemen? So the family and I went on a trip to Seattle. We took the train. Awesome. So I was in the bathroom at the train station in a stall, you know, having a sit down, you know. Before I get to the rest of it, you know, the rest of the story, is it bad if the toilet paper is moist? All right, so really, another guy comes in. I'm guessing he was in urgent need of a sit-down situation, but he banged on the door and I said, "Hey, give me a break, I'm playing solitaire in here."